Hey, what's up guys? For today's video, Mir and I, we're going to discuss the recent small balance update that came with the Terry patch and just talk about it a little bit because it gives us kind of a small idea where Capcom's head is at for these balance patches. And we're just going to go briefly over like the most important notes. There's a lot of bug fixes too, Mir. But what do you want to start with here to talk about?
I mean, first of all, I'd like to mention that this is obviously a balance patch that came out during the course of the competitive season, so Capcom intentionally made it smaller than probably a lot of people would have wanted, just because, you know, they really don't want to mess with the tournament stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But there's some notable changes still, like some characters in particular, I would say, but I am expecting all the big changes, in particular the changes to universal game mechanics, to come with the season patch. Basically.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you want to start
people
here?
are disappointed not to see that one. That's probably why that is.
Mm-hmm.
The most notable one that I noticed among the list of bug fixes, some of them are assist combos, which we really don't care about, really.
Yeah.
But like there's some about the DIs. So like in Street Fighter 6, drive impacts are universally the same, right? All the characters are supposed to have the same drive impact, same speed, same range, hitbox, everything, even though they look wildly different.
They do. They definitely do. It's deceiving.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, some characters had a proximity block on the drive impact that was a little bit longer than the hitbox, so you could just get stuck in proximity block, and then the DI would completely whiff.
Okay, so the proximity guard is when you hold back, and your character when you're holding back is put into the block animation while the attack is active. So you're saying some characters can DI further away, and the character can't move back out of it.
Well, the way I understood it was more that these characters, they had longer proximity block ranges, but then the DI would whiff, so it was not intended for it to be that long.
Okay.
And they changed it up for Luke, Kimberly, Chun-Li, Dee Jay, and Aki. So now they should all be the same.
Okay. Just normalizing
should
the
DNs. is the right word here. But then the other notable change is to perfect parry, and specifically a couple moves. Although it's listed as a general change, it's I guess more of a character specific change, and it's some attacks you could perfect parry, but you weren't able to punish because the perfect parry actually didn't freeze time correctly.
Okay.
And notably, Rashid's Arabian Cyclone.
Yeah,
couldn't be perfect parry then punished, but now you can perfect parry and throw him, for example.
Yeah, I already have him set up for this. So a really common block string with Rashid is he constantly goes into medium or heavy Arabian Cyclone, and one of the best options to deal with this, because you don't know which one he's gonna do, is to go for the perfect parry. But when you perfect parry this thing, it's really annoying because he like leaves the wind projectile, and if I try to punish him, you see how it says punish counter, I still get hit. And before, if you try to simply throw him, for example, the projectile would hit you. But now you can throw him, which is nice. Most of the time, like, the go-to punish for this is drive impact. But at least it's nice now that you have more options to punish Rashid. The other one, I think, was JP as well.
Yeah.
It was the street block. It was the cane, right?
The slash, right?
Yeah. Because there'll be like a persisting active hitbox that hits you afterwards, so you'd have to perfect parry it twice, you know. So that's cool. With Terry, with
more of a consistency thing, right? I think it makes sense that they would try to make everything more consistent.
Yeah, man. If you're getting the perfect parry, you should definitely get a punish. Like I said, with Terry, the round wave, the heavy round wave, it's a projectile and hitbox, and it freezes the screen. And, you know, they're looking at things similar to that, like Rashid's Arabian Cyclone, where he spins. So.
Yeah, I think the idea is that they're both considered a strike and a projectile in game terms, which is why the freeze happens. So it's a matter of consistency that then the screen freeze would obviously apply the same level of slowdown like it would on strikes, but it wasn't doing that correctly.
Okay, let's get into the thick of the notes, Mir. Let's talk about the characters. Yeah. Who do you want to start off with?
Well, I mean, we can go in order of how they were listed on the website. And the first one, of course, is Luke. He's the poster boy, right?
Yeah, dude.
And then they shot him.
Man, Capcom went hard on Luke. So seeing them kind of backtrack a little bit and then seeing Luke's name on those notes, I was like, wow, okay, all right. So they didn't want to actually nerf him that hard. So what did they change?
Well, I mean, the most notable thing is that they reduced the pushback on hidden block for his lights, crouching light kick, crouching light punch, so that it's a little bit closer, you know, like easier for him to do block strings on you, especially if he's at range. Crouching medium punch has also less pushback on hit, which is one of his main buttons. And then they added a little bit of damage to his light, medium, heavy target combo, like light punch, medium punch, heavy punch.
Yeah.
There's less scaling, the last attack does a little bit more damage.
All
And
right.
then for his back heavy kick, he has a little bit more inertia coming out of Drive Rush, which I'm not sure what kind of combos it enables, but it's probably nice to get the closest possible to the opponent, because then Luke can do crouching heavy punch, right? That's his main combo route here.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, it will let him do it from further away, for example, if he does it in neutral or as a punish to certain attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
So, in general, it seems that they're trying to undo some of the things that done to him. Namely, his damage is very low now, right, for what it used to be.
Oh yeah, scaling on
It has
such
been
key
lowered a lot.
key buttons for sure. Crouching heavy punch, crouching medium punch, crouching medium kick. But I noticed too that Luke's kind of getting the Nash treatment, where when they cut off Nash's legs and they didn't want him to be like this big zoner, evasive zoner, and they wanted to be more close quarters. And I feel like Luke's getting the same treatment, because in the main patch before, you know, they're giving the big screen shake on spaced Luke heavy kick, so they want you to like pressure more with it. Hold on, I'm trying to get the spacing for this thing. What is this? Oh, there we go. We got the shake right there. I had to get him crouched.
there it is.
Dude, there's so many setups. There's so many, guys. You have to believe me.
I do like
one more time. There we go.
Idea of, I do like the idea of Capcom making it apparently obvious that some moves are plus on block when they're done meaty like that.
Yeah,
and we
for
see it
sure.
on Parry as well. You know, Terry's Burning Knuckles, they make the screen shake when they're plus, the same idea.
Yeah, man. Okay, so the heavy kick, screen shake, and then now we got the meaty shoulder tackle. So those two changes, like, they want Luke to be closer and closer, right? Because there's certain setups into that. And now that his lights have less pushback on both hit and block, so anytime he does those kind of setups with the heavy kick knee and the shoulder, I think just benefits Luke more. They want him to be closer. So when you do like a setup like this, now your lights, like, they can't walk back as hard on you when you're blocking, when you space that knee. Any kind of meaty shoulder setup. What would he do for a meaty shoulder? I guess if he just does the normal B&B. Like this, and then you meaty shoulder after and they block it, then he'll be like a lot closer. Or not closer, but the pushback on the lights will come into effect there when they're trying to walk away. And even with the 1, 2, 3, the light, medium, heavy target combo, Amir, if you land a counter hit with crouching medium punch, you can combo into it. So maybe they're thinking that as well. Plus the DDT change is mostly good for him meter dumping from lights. And just Luke players like to spam crouching medium punch on block a lot. So that helps too. Like, all that comes together.
I think the idea for sure for Luke is that compared to other Shotos, he's less. They wanted him at least to be less fireball centric and more normal centric, because he has strong normals. The fact that he has that crouching medium punch that is plus on block is notable, right?
Yeah.
And in general, they do want you to play more up close, like you were mentioning. So having these buffs that help you, stick a little bit more to your opponent,
right?
I think makes a lot of sense for what they want the character to be. And admittedly, the fireball, Luke's fireball, it was pretty strong, and the fact that they had to kind of like work around it, especially with the parry system, it led them down this way. I think they definitely overdid it with the nerfs, because it's probably a matter of we saw this character everywhere and maybe they overreacted a little. But it went from being everywhere to being pretty rare. I mean, there's some loyalists that still use them, but I would say that overall Luke is falling out of grace. So maybe we'll see a little bit more play now that, like, overall they're giving him a few more buffs. They definitely seem like notice me buffs, like in the sense that Capcom doesn't think that he's that bad, and they're trying to make people, play the character again.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that's the case.
I don't think these buffs are gonna matter at all. I don't think it's gonna make any pro want to switch to Luke, especially this late to the season. But I think it's basically the beginning of the big buffs that are to come to Luke, I think, in season 3, and they're just getting people ready for it. That's what I think. All right, let's move on to the next character. Who we got to talk about?
Well, there's a few characters we can kind of gloss over. So, for example, Jamie, he does have changes officially, but it's just a bug fix that doesn't really matter.
Skip the bug fixes. Let's just talk about the meat and potatoes.
Kimberly is an interesting one,
Kimberly,
which is again another character that has a little bit of trouble dealing damage. Her damage is relatively low. In fact, it is lower than normal until she does her level 3 and she gets the buff. So
yeah,
that's pretty unique to her and Jamie, I guess. But what they did is that they changed the scaling for the Shuriken Bomb from 20% to 10%, which like potentially could add some damage to a lot of her setups since she's a setup heavy character. So
yeah, since her damage is so low, her throw damage is so bad, and she's just willing you down. The main way she's gonna close a round on you, one of them is landing a Shuriken Bomb reset on you, which at least it's easy to get into. It's like all of her like follow up B&Bs, and then you get the Azuna drop from it. So reducing the scaling on that, I think is great. Also, Shuriken Bombs is a limited resource that she has to reload. It doesn't refill between the rounds. I still really don't like where Kimberly's at with these Shuriken Bombs. Like, I don't like the idea that she can't reload them from one stock. It has to be 0 stocks where she reloads, and it doesn't refill between the rounds. Whereas Blanca's Blanca Chandals start at 3 and they refill each round, and they're just as powerful. He has just as many setups.
I think it is intentional that they are different, specifically because they didn't want them to be exactly the same. But aside from that reason, I would agree with you in the sense that I also would like for Kimberly to be able to reload when you only have one, because in some situations you just don't get the chance afterwards, right? Like you just need two bombs to be able to pressure multiple times in a row, which is how the character sticks to you in the first place. And I understand why it is this way. It's because of an input overlap issue, right? Because you reload it the same way you use it.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if
which is another
there was
flaw.
an alternative input.
The big thing is that Kimberly has the option to throw down 2 Shuriken Bombs. There is very few setups for it. Like, one thing is that there's like a DI setup where if you throw down 2 and then you DI and they try to DI you back, it will beat them. But I would like to see Kimberly also throw more Shuriken Bombs in mid-screen and not just use it as a knockdown setup. I want to see it more because she's supposed to be the big mix-up character. And like I said, unfortunately, it's too similar to Blanca, where they're both using it in the corner. And I just feel like Blanca's is superior in its utility, and the fact that, Kimberly has to reload this thing. I like that she uses it on her level 1, but I think Capcom needs to explore it further with her.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it seems like they were trying to sort of undo some of the changes that they've been done to Kimberly in the past from the betas and stuff, and the damage being low was definitely one of the notable ones, which is why they went back on this, like reducing the scaling.
Okay, who are we talking about next?
We're talking about JP. And now this is a tricky one.
JP.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the more notable changes.
Ooh, JP. Okay. Yeah, JP. I guess the biggest thing would be the crouching heavy punch, right?
Yeah, so in general, it seems like Capcom wasn't happy with JP being mid-tier. It's like, we want this character in every tournament, so that's what we're gonna do. No, but like, jokes aside, the most notable thing of this change, which actually, let me go over them right now.
Okay.
There's a few adjustments. The most important stuff is the forward heavy kick, which is an N tier, and the combo tool is better in combos because it has they have changed the juggle potential, if I remember correctly. Combo count upper limit, so it's gonna be more useful in combos. They changed some knockback and blowback time on Tree Glove, which is a spike. I have no idea what that means. It's very confusing to me in the wording.
Yeah.
The critical back kick, which is his embrace, they changed the scaling and lowered it. So if you manage to follow up from this, like the setups that JP has with his portals and stuff, you're gonna do more damage. But aside from that, what's most important, like you mentioned, is that they looked at crouching heavy punch, which in a previous patch had been nerfed by removing basically the anti-air hurt box part of it.
Yeah.
Or sorry, rather, it didn't have an anti-air hurt box part of it, and then that was very detached and very strong anti-air. And
yeah, it was invincible.
Eventually, they added it. Yeah, it was invincible to air attacks, and they added it as like just a normal hurt box, and that made that normal trade so much more.
It was the most devastating nerf. Attacks. Yeah, it was really big.
Yeah, on a lot of jumping attacks that had very strong and downward reaching, hitboxes like Luke's jumping heavy punch, Ken jumping heavy punch, those sort of attacks. It traded a lot, and now they completely reverted it. It's exactly how it was when the game launched. They
said it's slightly worse, but it's like by 1 active frame. So, but besides that, it's pretty much returned. I immediately wanted to watch some JP. I was watching Juicy Joe during the CPT, and who's been like a dedicated JP player ever since, still even after the big nerfs. And I didn't see his crouching heavy punch trade once through the entire tournament. So it's back, baby. Despite all the big nerfs that JP got, he was one of the most nerfed characters by far. A lot of the nerfs were really warranted. Like the amnesia, the scaling, the way the meter was changed. A lot of the stuff was like, man, the character was just out of control, but he still maintains his kit. But the crouching heavy punch is where it's just like, okay, this is just too much. Seeing poor Kakru have to deal with those camis and just trade and lose matches because how unreliable when there's like some beastly jumping heavy attacks in this game, like Ken or Luke jumping heavy punch, right?
Yeah.
So
I think the idea was that they wanted a character that doesn't have a DP to have a strong anti-air, because the idea is that you have to use your fireballs to keep your opponent out and mix them up.
Right.
And you have a feint with these fireballs that has very short recovery, so that basically lets you bait an opponent to jump at you, and then you anti-air them with your normals, right? But you don't have a DP that you can just use every time you have 1 frame available. Yeah. Right? Like they just wanted the character to be a little bit more deliberate when it comes to anti-airs and stuff. So I think originally it made sense for the hurt box to be air invulnerable like it used to be, but it just ended up being, in combination with everything else, just too much. And then, like you said, they kind of like over nerfed them and it stopped working.
Yeah,
all of a sudden.
Who's a great example of that, Mir, is Guile. Guile's crouching heavy punch is not supposed to be the best anti-air. It trades a lot and it's slow.
Yeah.
And the reason is because he has a flash kick. And that's why they didn't want Guile to have this insane, iron curtain here where he's crouching heavy punching you even when he doesn't have charge every time. But the problem is the same is JP, they made it similar to Guile's, but this guy doesn't have a flash kick. So it's his go-to. Yeah. So yeah, obviously that was a big problem.
Especially because he relies a lot on making the opponent jump to create situations where like he can anti-air you, right? I mean, it's a strong point of many zoners, the fact that they do want you to jump. And obviously for JP, is for the heavy kick is also an anti-air, and it's like his high reward anti-air because it creates a juggle state. But realistically, you're not using that when people are jumping over a feint fireball. It's just too slow, right?
Right.
So its crouching heavy punch has to be reliable, which is why they went back on that change.
Right. So the other changes in the patch where they're changing things with his forward heavy kick, and you said the spike as well. From what I understand from what other JP players are saying, is basically Capcom is also reverting back some of his level 2 combo juggle stuff. So he lost some juggles and combos that he had before, and now most of it has returned now. He's kind of back to the old JP, just, with more scaling. The only thing that has not returned is the double DI level 2 combo. I don't have my brother here to demonstrate it for us, but
I was gonna say, it's probably for the best, because that was definitely an outlier when it comes to drive damage.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's good now. I think Capcom's basically like they test the waters. They're like, okay, there's not a million JPs in top 8. We can slowly start bringing back his kit. It looks like the scaling and all that was enough. We're bringing back his anti-air as well. And so one more thing too that kind of snuck in there as well was the standing medium kick buff, Mir. They made it +3 on hit, and from what I understand, that means that if he buffers this into his level 2, he can now combo into his crouching medium kick,
Oh, I
which he
see.
couldn't before. So now he just has another option to buffer into his level 2, which I'm seeing Kakaroo do a lot. So it seems to be quite good. Give JP another way to get into his level 2.
Probably useful for cancels into his specials as well, especially if he lands punish counters or counter hits. Maybe you'll let him go into a higher level of a special that he couldn't before. So it's always neat to have.
Yeah. Finally, Capcom is tripling down on this embrace, this command grab. Bro, JP players, you guys gotta stop doing this, man. JP players love this command grab, but it's getting them killed because Capcom keeps trying to buff it. This is like JP's low-key, what's it called, Tundra Storm. But anyways, in the last big patch mirror, he's able to now combo into it from like, I don't know, crush counter heavy punch.
Yeah.
And they wanted to reduce the scale on it because like if JP does like a Hail Mary drive rush and he happens to crush counter, at least he'll get because they'll go for the block string into the brace, but at least now if it hits, it combos, and they're just trying to make it more rewarding. But that pretty much sums up JP, man.
Yeah.
I think JP's back though. I think he's back.
I think so too. I feel like the issue that he had was just that the consistency of the crouching heavy punch was gone and made the character definitely a little bit more frustrating to play. He does have strong matchups, and there's some characters that he does well against that are getting more popular now. I mean, Guile is a good example of a character that JP does very well against, and now the Guile players have been doing quite well for themselves, I have to say. So
we need
having
JP.
more JPs in top 8 is gonna be important to keep them in check.
Yeah, which we anticipated too when we knew the inevitable JP nerfs were coming, that Guile would rise up.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, who you want to talk about next? Who's up next?
All right, next on the list we have Jury's Just Bug Fixes, and then we have DJ.
Oh, DJ. Yeah, DJ.
DJ is another interesting one because he fell off pretty hard.
Oh man,
I have to say,
dude.
I think the biggest strength of DJ in release day Street Fighter 6 was just that he was pretty simple, honestly, like simple to play, effective, high damage. Like overall sort of difficult to counter, but he definitely got hit quite a bit.
Yeah, lots of scaling nerfs in general, and some things with his defensive options too, like jackknife. Like things got nerfed. So what did they change?
Well, now they're trying to basically go after the things that are most unremarkable about his kit. Like I think a good example would be how they made comboing into his Super 1 a little bit more useful. He has a different kind of knockdown for mid-air hits, which I believe it gives him better Oki, as I understand. It's easier to combo into because it has...
You can space this too, right?
Mobility. Yeah, they changed it to make it so that it's much safer now, which I thought was hilarious when they showed the trailer for the patch notes.
Yeah.
They showed DJ doing a super, and I was like, "Oh, is that gonna combo?" And then it gets blocked.
Oh, they just wanted to show that it was safe.
Was the fact that even if it does get blocked, it is quite safe. So yeah, they definitely want you to use this super because it's not invulnerable, right? A lot of people use their level ones with their invulnerability, but DJ doesn't have that. So obviously, it has a much more niche use.
Yeah.
And overall, they're slightly trying to buff it over time. I think it's again sort of a notice me buff before they completely overhaul it. If people don't.
I mean, it is unique, man. It is unique that it's not.
It is unique.
It's
yeah.
fast. So.
Another thing that's pretty interesting about his changes is that from his Odie's Way, the overhead has a ground bounce effect on on an air hit.
This is his coolest change.
Reminds me. Sorry?
This is his coolest change. I like this one. Because
it reminds me a lot of Akuma and other characters that have these sort of ground bounces. Parry, I think, has them as well with his crack shoot, OD crack shoot.
Right. So the main combo is you can go into this and you can go into level 1 now. And I'm already seeing DJ players use this. So it's a great new kind of round closer. And a bigger reward if you go for the overhead hit, and then once again they're still trying to make you use this unique level 1 because DJ is supposed to be a tricky character. They want you to use it more. So I like that change a lot actually.
I think it's nice, especially when DJ is all about being stylish and stuff, especially in this game. I think having more combo opportunities it definitely fits him pretty well. I think.
Yeah. What else did they change?
Well, another thing that's nice to have as a consistency change is that they buffed his anti-air, jackknife maximum, medium, and heavy versions, so that it has a better hitbox close to the ground.
Okay.
Because sometimes from far away hits, especially if you're trying to whiff punish or doing your long range conversions, it would whiff.
Oh, okay.
In unexpected ways. So that's again a consistency change. It's something nice to have, so that you know, like you don't get unexpected drops. It's always bad to drop a DP because, you know, like the hitbox is just a little bit too far. So that's probably what they were going for.
Okay.
And I guess the last thing is they buffed one of his combos. Like they revamped it pretty noticeably, I would say, which is his light punch, medium kick combo. Which is the one, or target combo, I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't see it too often, this one.
Yeah, you don't see it at all, I would say.
Okay.
So they probably noticed that, and they made it so that, you know, there's less pushback on hits, so that it's easier to land all the hits.
Okay, throw range too.
There's a little bit of a change in the transition timing, so that I believe it means that you have slightly more time to input it, so there's not, you know, like you don't have to dial it in as fast.
Oh, maybe one hit confirm or something?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but there's hit stop changes. It got a bunch of changes basically, and the point is, I think, is again a way for Capcom to show people that this exists. You guys should use it now that it's you know, a little bit more consistent.
Cool.
To be honest, I'm not sure what you would be using it for. Would you be using it for? But I mean, it's there. It's from a light, so
yeah. DJ doesn't have too many cancelable buttons. He's got a lot of target combos, so maybe they just want to, like, once again, focus on what makes him unique, rather than just, you know, making him the same as every other top tier. But yeah, man. So looking so far, like the characters that we talked about, we talked about a lot of characters that were very top tier in season 1, and they're slowly getting buffed. You know, JP, Luke, and DJ. So. Looks like Capcom has they're slowly apologizing and trying to bring these characters back a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I think it's probably for the characters they didn't expect to do as poorly after the nerfs. I think, like I said, a lot of these buffs so far, they definitely look to me more of a way of getting old players back, or, you know, people that were maybe marginally interested in these characters to try them again. Because they're not meaningful to the point where you go, wow, this buff is crazy. The only one so far, I guess, is JP's crouching heavy punch, and, you know,
that's pretty crazy buff. That's a reverb.
Yeah, that's the most notable one. But the others are all like, you know, notice me. This is the move that you never used. Maybe you should give it a try. And they're probably trying to say, yeah, we might have nerfed these characters a bunch, and sorry for that, but just have a little bit of something back, so that you you know, you get to enjoy the character again, try out something new.
Right. All right, Mir, who's next?
All right, next is Ryu. It's a bug fix, of course, so nothing there. We have
it's bugged Iwana Major.
Yeah, Honda got one.
Oh my god, Honda. Okay, dude, Honda. I got a bone to pick with this level too. I already know what you're gonna say. Go ahead, say it.
All right. So supposedly,
Oh my god.
the change is that Honda had a hard time landing a level 2 when it hit an extended hurt box, which is actually the intended purpose of this level 2, because is intended to be used against fireballs.
Right.
Fireball invulnerable, and that's why it's a charged super. And the idea is that from far away, sometimes it would drop because Honda was just too far, right? And the extended hurt box caused issues with that. So the idea is that now it should be less likely to drop, but I'm sure you're gonna tell me something about this.
Dude, why is this super a charge when it's so bad? This is one of the worst level 2s in the game. It's an anti-projectile super. I mean, Honda's the king of headbutts, you know? And his level 2 is just like, it's so slow. Like, if the opponent is zoning you from full screen away, it's just not that threatening. You have to preemptively do it. It's just not good. It doesn't do enough damage either. This is supposed to be his utility super. Like, his level 2 is better for, you know, corner carry from his B&Bs, but as an actual like anti-projectile super, it's so bad, especially when it's a charge. Like, Look at Guile's level 1. It's got a lot of great utility because it's a charge, you know? It's really good. And his level 3 is like an anti-air. But I feel like when it comes to charge supers, and they're very rare in this game, there's nothing that makes it powerful despite having this motion.
The reason why it is a charge super is not specifically because the super is particularly powerful, but because it's on Honda. They don't want Honda to have strong anti-fireball options. So like the one that they give him is difficult to use. Yeah. However, it does work-ish. I mean, obviously, it does have its issues.
Bro, what about Zangief's level 2, man? like, I don't know.
I mean, Zangief's level 2 is 50 million frame star.
Bro, it doesn't matter. It can counter projectiles. It's a threat on a grappler, you know? Heaven forbid, dude, that Honda has to charge full screen. Look, man. If you see Honda just crouching like this, like he usually does, maybe don't throw a fireball. That's all I'm saying. I don't know.
I think honestly, the threat of the super is probably what they expected to keep people in check. Is just that the rest of Honda is maybe not threatening enough, and that's maybe what they're gonna look at in the future. The thing that's difficult about Honda, and you can see that they are really, really scared of buffing him. Yeah, is that obviously he's already a very strong character at low rank, but he's completely hopeless at competitive play, right? Yeah. So basically, the way to buff Honda would be to give him something that's difficult to access for someone who's a very basic player, and it's only something for pros.
Dang, right? Gatekeeping? It would have to be... Sorry?
Gatekeeping? Not even gatekeeping. It's more that you don't want to buff low-level Honda, because low-level Honda is already strong, right? So basically, it would have to be stuff like one-hit confirms, maybe, like stuff that you can do on reaction, but it has to be tight. Or maybe some very difficult combo routes to increase his damage or give him better Oki and stuff. Things that the layman Honda can't do, basically. Because otherwise he's going to go terrorize diamond rank and lower for, years to come, even more than before, right? That's the big thing with Honda. And obviously Capcom is aware of this because they've been really scared of buffing him.
All right, I'm already done with this bum mirror. Let's talk about the next character.
Sure thing. So, Blanca, bug fix, doesn't matter. Guile. Oh, this is
Guile, Guile. Okay, this is all you, Mir.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to say. Interestingly enough, the change is fairly straightforward. I think it is meaningful, but not, it's not gonna change the character completely, like some people have claimed, I guess.
Okay,
and
so
the thing that they changed that is Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
This is all versions, and this includes the perfect Sonic Boom. There's no difference here.
OD?
Is that a good question? No, it's it's light, medium, and heavy. That's,
okay.
Just the normal ones.
Gotcha.
The super art gauge that you gain and the drive gauge that you gain on hit and block has been basically cut down in half. Except for the medium version, which is the one that gives the most. So it used to be 600 and it went to 300. And the medium version went to 450. And this goes in tandem with a buff that they did last patch, where they made it so that Guile's medium Sonic Boom is the one that depletes the most drive gauge on block. Because they knew that was the one that you used the least. Because it wasn't the slowest one and it wasn't the fastest one.
Okay.
So they made the medium boom better in the past, and now it's the one they nerfed the least. So they want you to use it, especially in block strings, I think.
Okay.
And the heavy Sonic Boom does a little bit more drive gauge damage than the light Sonic Boom. So the light Sonic Boom right now is the one that is least impressive when it comes to like drive gauge damage and meter build. But of course, it's the most valuable because it's the slow one. So you can go after.
Okay.
Anyway, basically, the idea behind this nerf is Guile has incredible meter build because of his Sonic Boom loops.
Mm-hmm.
His Sonic Boom loops are really, really strong. The damage is high, and the meter build is almost comparable to no one else. Like it's very, very strong. So obviously, they looked at that and they were like, "Well, this is not really what Guile's about. So we're gonna nerf the."
Are you sure that's not what Guile's about?
I mean, I don't think it's fair for Guile as a zoner to build like 2 bars of super doing a combo. I think that's a little bit too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But basically, this will affect his general game plan as well, of course, because he throws Sonic Boom when he's in neutral too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely weakened him, and I think honestly, this wouldn't have changed his position in the tier list at all if it weren't for the fact that JP is coming back. I think maybe the two together might cause, you know, like some changes like that. But I feel this is more of a it's something that you can live with. Like the character is untouched otherwise, right? And yeah, I do not think it's that insane. You know, it's like I think it's overreacting to say that this, you know, like was a really big nerf to Guile, but it is notable, and I mean, Guile players will have to live with it now from now on.
I think it just makes it so that, like, besides the combo stuff you mentioned too, is that just when Guile is just chucking booms, it gives players that are using Parry just more time, because I think overall, if you just parry Guile's booms now, you will gain more meter than he does. So that just makes it a little bit more rewarding, especially when like Guile has some pretty jarring matchups where he's like really gives some characters a really hard time, like Manon or Ryu. You know, like those characters like badly need to gain meter. It would be crazy like Guile gaining more meter with the zone and then the level 2 mayhem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say characters that have poor anti-fireball options actually kind of struggled against his medium Sonic Boom, which is the one that before no one used, but now you have a reason to use because it does the most drive damage. So characters that already lost a matchup, like Jamie. Yeah, Jamie is absolutely destroyed in the Guile matchup. It lost the matchup even more.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's probably reasonable, you know, that they would go after a little bit of a zoning like this. And it gives an incentive for Guile players to try and stay in, because now the way you get your drive gauge back and your meter back is by pressuring with block strings and stuff, you know? Like you throw your fireball and then you go in. And obviously that does carry risk. So it's just a way of shuffling about his playstyle to make it a little bit more risky. I think that's really all there is to it.
Okay,
because you can't just safely stay out there and throw booms and build meter and then have infinite meter for whatever you want, level 2s and stuff.
All right, next up.
All right, we have Chun-Li. There's a bug fix and a little adjustment, which is to say that her Tensho kicks, they increase the knockdown time when the first attack hits, which I think the idea behind this is another consistency change where sometimes people would fall out of the Tensho kicks.
Yeah,
right?
I just
like
did it
only
once.
The first hit hits.
Yeah.
And they fall to the ground. Now they increase the knockdown time so that you don't get punished for it, basically.
Oh, okay. This is very similar to reuse, yeah.
It's very similar to Honda's level 2 as well, because like the Honda level 2, they changed it the same way where you know, there's extended knockdown in case it drops.
Yeah.
Which again, it's a nice consistency change. Actually, in Street Fighter 5, there were a few characters that had this very issue, and over time they fixed it in that game too. So that's mostly it. I mean, I don't think this is gonna change Chun-Li at all.
No.
But yay, a win is a win.
Right. This is similar to reuse OD uppercut when you just hit with the tail end and they didn't get knocked down long enough. You got punished for it. One of Chun-Li's weaknesses is actually her Tensho kicks. Like, she's given a stronger anti-air because, you know, it's a command anti-air for Chun-Li that doesn't require a charge. But it's wonky in the way that can be baited by things that delay the trajectory, like, you know, Jerry dive kick. So at least give an option so that when she does use it properly, you know, she doesn't get punished.
She shouldn't be punished for landing.
Yeah. So I think it's just a small bump to not, because she already had like her heavy kick punish. That got nerfed too on the scaling, but it's so strong. It does so much damage still, even after the nerf. So I think they're just looking at Chun-Li's weaknesses and trying to just give it a tiny bump for now. Because Chun-Li, even though she did get nerfed, she's still a strong character, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, she's solid, right? And she has a fireball, good ability to deal with most of every matchup. I think she's definitely up there as far as versatility is concerned.
Yeah, good, well-rounded
just a little
character.
bit more technical than other characters.
She's just tough. She's really tough.
Okay, now we got another juicy character on the list here.
Who?
We got Zangief.
Oh, dude, Public Enemy #1. It's kind of funny. At the time of recording this, we just had an insane victory, double Zangief victory on the same day, with the East Coast Throwdown Major, and on the other side with Men-RD winning with Zangief with the first attack, bro. This man, Yeah. So this
I mean,
is
there's something that I would like to say about this, and I think a lot of people looked at these changes that we're gonna talk about,
yeah.
and they screamed, "Oh my God, Zangief is dead!" Right? And there were some Zangief players that kind of just joked and memed about it by
Yeah.
saying, "Oh no, his position changed from like top 3 to top 3 or whatever."
Yeah.
In the sense that I felt the same way. I feel these changes are meaningful in the sense that they're important, but they don't really make Zangief that much of a worse character. Obviously they're nerfs.
But
We're
let's
gonna
point
go-
out that the fact that this is the second emergency nerf that Zangief has received since the beginning of season 2.
Yes,
He's
that
been
is
getting
true.
nerfs. So like this guy is definitely in Capcom's crosshairs, and this was right before Zangief just won a major. Right? And with Itazan and now with Mena again winning 2 tournaments now with Zangief. So I don't think this is going to be the end of the emergency nerfs. But what are they?
Yeah,
Mir?
yeah, absolutely.
What are
Okay,
they?
so to go over them,
Yeah.
a lot of people will be happy to hear that his forward median kick is now unsafe on block.
Bro.
Again.
Mir,
So
bro.
yeah, they changed this to -3 at some
Yeah.
point, and now it's -4 when you don't space it at all, which means 2 things. One is that if you drive rush forward median kick, you're not plus,
Yeah.
which is very nice, and that's the same for burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing means that you have to actually correctly space this in neutral if you want to use it to go over a low, for example, because this has a little bit of a low evasion property as a move. And
A
of course,
little
on punch
bit?
counter, I mean, you would. Well, it's not instant. That's what I meant to say. Obviously, it goes over them pretty reliably.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you do go over low, then you get a punish counter and you get reward, right?
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is why it's so scary. Having it safe meant that Zangief could just kind of just do it.
Right.
And since it does have a little bit of pushback at some ranges, it was even difficult to threaten a throw. So now at least you have to space it a little to make it safe.
Yeah, Zangief
which I
players
think
aren't
is fair.
mindlessly just throwing this out as much anymore. And dude,
Absolutely.
Street Fighter V, this was actually one of Zangief's biggest nerfs they did. They added 3 frames of recovery on whiff with this thing. And this was, in a game that didn't have drive rush. So it hurt Zangief for many seasons because of that. But even after this nerf, I would say forward medium kick is still a very powerful tool. You just have to space it. Space it properly. And it's not
There's
too
also
hard to
another
space.
thing where they moved where the hurt box is because Zangief used to lean forward. Well, I mean, he still does. He leans forward when he does the attack and then does the little hop.
Yeah.
But the hurt box was misplaced, and very often you would try to attack Geef and it would completely miss. Because the hurt box wasn't actually there, so that was a little bit deceiving. So they fixed that. It didn't really do anything for the move aside from visually looking exactly how it's supposed to.
Okay.
So that's the first major change, one of 2 major changes, and one of 2 changes overall. The other one is the headbutt. So the headbutt is for heavy punch, and it's another important move of his.
Yeah.
And what they did is that now it has 25% initial scaling. And it has extra scaling in combo, so it had 10% extra scaling. Now it's 20% extra scaling. But to compensate for these are damage nerfs, basically, right? Like all of his combos involving headbutt are gonna be worse. To compensate, they made it +8 on hit from +7. So now, if you want to convert into level 2, you can do crouching medium punch into level 2, which is easier. Because doing down forward medium punch into level 2, we've seen it dropped even by professional players. Talking about Itazan, there's a famous
I don't have
drop
any
of
super
his,
meter.
of that specifically. Sorry?
I was about to say, man, it's supposed to be easier. And I'm like, how come I can't do it? I don't have any super meter. I'm like losing my mind here. I'm like, what the? Okay.
Don't worry, guys. We're professional.
Bro, I was like, oh my God, I got to edit this out.
Yeah. So I think the compensation buff is really just a quality of life thing, because ideally you want to still do the health stab.
Yeah.
But at least this gives you an opportunity for an undroppable combo, right? Like you don't want to mess it up. I think the reason why they nerfed the damage is just because the entirety of Zangief is built around a system of risk reward. His command throw is risky. However, the reward is quite high and the range is high as well for a character with a command throw.
Yeah.
Right? And everything is built around that. You're so scared of this command throw that then is, light attacks and strikes, they hit because you're trying to jump away.
Right.
Right? And I guess what they were trying to look at here is that they thought that the reward for landing the hits, and particularly the headbutt, which is obviously plus on block as well, they just felt it was too high. Right? It skewed this risk-reward equation too much. So they just nerfed this damage to compensate.
Another thing too is the hell stab, the down forward medium punch. This is a one hit confirmable into lariat, and since lariat's only two buttons, it's very easy to confirm this. So they're just trying to like reduce the damage. Like overall, if he just gets a less damaging reward, it still does really high damage. And the fact that they buffed his OD lariat, right? So now he can easily go into his level 3 and level 2, which is like actually a stronger route. So overall, they're just trying to lower the risk reward, like you're mentioning, but forward heavy punch is still extremely powerful. The meter drain, zero pushback. The opponent has to do something, otherwise they're gonna die.
Yeah, the biggest strength of Zangief after his buffs, right, post launch, was that basically his mediums drain as much gauge as heavies, and his heavies drain more gauge than heavies. So if you do if you block Zangief, it's pretty bad for your drive health.
Yeah, man.
And naturally, that's a big part of the equation in Street Fighter 6, right? Like you get burnt out against certain characters. It's really tough, and against Zangief in particular, many characters rely on their drive rush to kind of like push him away from the corner, right? Like if you get cornered, maybe you'll try to drive rush on Zangief just to keep him away.
Yeah.
And if you have less drive, I mean, you're just in a worse position. So it makes sense that it would go after a little bit of a safety with the forward medium kick, which otherwise is again just free drive damage, and is headbutt. Because headbutt, strong for drive damage, plus on block. At least now it hurts a little bit less if it hits.
At least. But once again, this isn't the ending. This is only the beginning. I am telling you guys. Capcom is going in for the kill this time. They're going in for the kill.
Like, the thing about Zangief that is very peculiar, and this is unlike many other characters, I think the only other character is like this is Ed, is that also Zangief is very popular as a modern pick, which is worth considering because some people actually have, tried to play him competitively like that. So I'm sure that Capcom's thinking about it too. It's like we have to balance this character, keeping in mind the fact that he's popular as a, modern controls options too.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what they're gonna do next because it's obvious that they don't want Zangief to be too strong, and that's always been a thing in Street Fighter games. Like when Zangief or grapplers in general, but he being the king of grapplers, makes the strongest case for. When they're strong, it's like a problem. Street Fighter 5, there was a time when Zangief was really, really good and no one liked it. So I think they are definitely keeping an eye on that, and I believe you're correct. I think more is to come, but I feel that they would also compensate with something. I don't think he's just gonna get nerfed at this point. So they're willing to give him something back, so we'll see. Maybe Thunderstorm is gonna get buffed.
All right, next character.
All right, next character on the list, and this one is another interesting one. Is Dhalsim.
Oh, Dhalsim. Okay.
Yeah, Dhalsim. I find this character very interesting design-wise. For a character that is as old as Dhalsim, like Street Fighter 2, I feel like they managed to do a great job with him, in particular in Street Fighter 5 and 6. It's pretty creative the way they put him together, but obviously in Street Fighter 6, Capcom didn't think he was very good. And obviously he's massively unpopular even when he's good, so...
Yeah, whereas Zangief, I feel like, benefits from the system mechanics greatly, much more than other characters do. I feel like Dhalsim's the opposite, where he doesn't benefit well from the mechanics, so I think Capcom's noticing that, and usually Dhalsim is strong across a lot of different Street Fighter titles. And in Street Fighter 6, he doesn't seem too strong, so he also barely got any notes with the main patch. And now Capcom is starting to focus on him a little bit more and adjust him. So what did they change?
Well, okay. The most important stuff here is that Standing medium punch was minus on hit. Now it's 0, which is nice to have. I mean, limbs. That's one of his.
Yeah, that makes it so that
features.
When he pokes with this, the opponent can't like just do a random jump after. He's more ready for his anti-airs after he lands those pokes. Okay.
Yeah, heavy kick has more advantage on punish counter, which I believe opens up for new combos, although I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah, I believe so.
24. Another thing that you can do in a lot of those situations is land a slide from far away.
Yeah,
which,
this teleport
This should be easier to do as well.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Okay, so the next change is down back heavy punch has reduced the knockback distance from a mid-air hit, and I think the reason why they did this is for air resets, because it used to air reset very far away.
I think this is like one of his key meaty buttons, so maybe if he mistimes it or something, they try jumping out, maybe he can still convert, I guess? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm imagining it's for air resets for sure.
Yeah.
Other notable changes is Yoga Fire has been changed so that it's easier to do uncharged. Because these attacks where you can charge them up, they have, if you hold the button a little bit too long, they transition to the delayed version and you lose some frames there. So this way should be a little bit easier to do uncharged in case you want to be ready for an anti-air.
I see.
And also the delayed version is a little bit safer on block. So that should be easier to use in block strings, for example. Is Overdrive Yoga Fire has less pushback on hit for the first attack. They changed the knockback time to be longer. Basically, the idea is it also doesn't have a hurt box when he uses it, like a hurt box in front of the attack.
Oh, really? Like Akuma styles?
Yeah, so like it should be easier to be used as kind of like counter poke sort of fireball, right?
Okay. And
also it should be a little bit more reliable in certain combos and stuff.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure of Dhalsim's combo routes. It's been a while since I looked at them, but I know that they come up with new stuff because I have seen that on Twitter and even occasionally in some competitive footage. Because Dhalsim surprisingly does show up from time to time. There's a few notable players that play Dhalsim, like Mr. Crimson.
Yeah, Mr. Crimson, and recently too, guys. Who was that? That player on Daigo's team on Beast Cup who played Dhalsim. That guy was amazing. Like, there's some like, of course, Dhalsim is like a big, specialist character. Yeah. Louis man, dude, that guy was so good with Dhalsim. Like, you can really see.
Made Lord Daigo happy.
Oh yeah, Daigo was clapping, dude. He was It was really solid Dhalsim play. So, even though he's considered a lower tier character, at the end of the day, like, he is a big zoner. They just need to figure out a way to make him benefit more from the system mechanics. And
He's also very tricky. A lot of people that don't have the matchup research down to a T can, you can get tricked by what Dhalsim is about to do.
Yeah, I believe his ranks.
Always something to keep in mind. But I guess I left the last change for, because it was the most interesting one, I think, is Super Art 1 Yoga Inferno. Now actually does recoverable damage on block, so it does great health on block, which is unique because in Street Fighter 6 you cannot chip opponents unless they're in burnout, which is something extra. They increased the drive gauge reduction on block, so now it does more drive damage if this is blocked. But most notably, the light and medium versions are only -10. They used to be -15, and now they're -10.
Oh, so you can space them.
And if you space them correctly, a lot of characters actually have quite some trouble punishing them. Because like a lot of sweeps are kind of like 11 frames, like the long range sweeps.
Yeah.
And some characters just can't reach even if they have a good sweep. So honestly, this is an
cool.
interesting change because like his level 1 is not invulnerable, by the way.
Yeah, again, this is like a DJ situation mirror where they're trying to make them unique because they're not invincible.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the way to do it because now this gives Dhalsim an opportunity to chip away at your opponent's health and drive effectively. Because like imagine you're doing a block string and your opponent is not pairing and you visually confirm that they're not pairing.
Yeah.
You could realistically go into the super and it would be a true block string because, you're canceling into the super.
Right.
and they wouldn't be able to parry it then. And you could burn them out this way, right? Like do some reasonable damage, and it's a legitimate threat, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not something you do point blank. You have to space it. You need to have a setup for it. But I think it's the right way to move forward for these characters that don't have invulnerable level 1s. At least, like you said, it gives them something to do with them, something unique. Otherwise, they just have a weaker version of a super.
I also like that, it kind of reminds of his old V-Trigger 1, which is pretty sick, like the flame carpet. And another thing, too, is like Dhalsim in Street Fighter V, he was a very aggressive character. Like the Guile, Yoga Guile, like block string pressure stuff was really strong. So I think they're trying to like give him some more pressure stuff, too, because, this character is just, it's so hard for Dhalsim to keep characters out because of the drive rush mechanics. So giving him more offensive pressure, I think, is a good idea. And yeah, so Dhalsim's getting some buffs, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in general, it's fine not to go after his mix-up options, so I guess, and give him stronger mix-ups, because they have undid that a little bit from Street Fighter V. Because obviously in Street Fighter V, you had the Yoga Gale pressure and stuff. It was pretty difficult to deal with in some situations.
Right.
And they didn't want it back, right? They went to a more traditional kind of zoning, but still tricky Dhalsim. And I think it's fine to double down on that, because like you said, the universal mechanics do hurt them quite a bit. So I think it's okay to make that a little bit stronger until it becomes, well, hopefully to stop before it becomes overbearing. But I think he's in a position such as that it's okay to buff him a little, especially because he's so unpopular.
Right. All right, moving on.
Okay, next character on the list. This is a minor change to Rashid.
Oh, Rashid.
I mean, I guess we already mentioned Rashid's most notable change, and I guess we can mention it again, which is now if you parry the Arabian Cyclone, you can throw him.
Yeah.
But on top of that, something that I would like to mention, this is like a personal pet peeve of mine, is that they nerfed the hurt box on Escarching Light Punch because it had this strange interactions with jump and attacks. Like sometimes it would actually favorably anti-air in ways that is not intended in this game. Like in Street Fighter V, they used to have a problem with anti-air jabs where it actually would be really
infamously.
And they went on a crusade to get rid of them entirely.
Yeah,
and then
twice.
Street Fighter 6. And then Street Fighter 6, they from the get-go, I think most characters they were very mindful for them not to have anti-air jabs.
Yeah,
like legit. When I say anti-air jabs, I don't mean that they cannot hit people in the air. I mean that like they shouldn't be winning, right?
Right, definitely.
They should trade at best. And yeah, I mean with Rashid, I guess the Scratching Light Punch kind of escaped their grasp.
Yeah.
So they added a big head hurt box just for air attacks.
Yeah.
So that he can get smacked right in the head.
Damn. Rashid particularly has some really good lights, and his light punch got nerfed before too for the drive rush light punch. So I'm glad they're looking at the lights in particular.
And then notably, the nerf to level 2. Not just kidding, they didn't do that.
No, they did not. That was like one of the first things I was looking for when I saw these notes. Speaking of level 2s, though,
it's really interesting. It's probably because it's such an important feature of Rashid's gameplay, and again, because they're dropping this midway through a competitive season,
right?
They didn't want to affect it too much. Maybe they were like, okay, we're just accepting that Rashid's gonna be really strong this season, and then we're gonna go after him when the season's over. I mean, this is my assumption, and before they buff him.
Yeah. All right, who we got next?
But yeah. So after this, we got Aki. That's just a bug fix. We got Ed.
Right.
Ed. That's good changes, I think, or pretty peculiar considering how the character is perceived, in particular overseas in Japan. Japan thinks very highly of Ed.
Yeah, he's triple S.
Yeah, very often top 5 in various positions. So it's interesting to see how actually most of these changes are buffs, but there is a notable nerf, of course.
Well, one thing I want to point out too is that unfortunately for Ed, he came out right. He was released right when the patch notes were coming out, so they didn't have really any time to tweak him at all. So he basically got nothing. except for a little
Yeah.
small buff to his crouching light punch. So, what did he get now?
Well, okay, so let's talk about the buffs first, the positives first out of the way. So heavy kick, which is plus on block, normal. It's now even more plus. It's plus
Yeah,
4.
they want them to use it more, but it's so dangerous, man. This thing whiffs on crouchers. I know you can do some meaty setups that can force the opponent to stand into this, but I don't know. It's a pretty dangerous button.
Well, yeah, that's tough because in Street Fighter 6 you can cancel the first frame of your standing into crouch block.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is specifically for people that are pairing. It's a way to like force them to eat plus frames.
Okay.
The trade-off, of course, is that they get drive gauge back. But I mean, yeah, it's a buff. It's nice to have. I don't think we're gonna see much of a difference here. I'm not sure what the +4 does over the +3. Just better frame traps into his other buns, I suppose, if it does land.
Right.
They made his jumping heavy punch 1 frame more active. Is 5 frames active now, which I know you mentioned before. It's nice for his safe jumps.
Dude, yeah, his safe jumps, they're just really hard to time, more than usual. So I think they're just doing it specifically for his safe jump setups, make it more reliable.
Mm-hmm. And even then, because it's a downward attack, it would be useful for it to be more active if you want to hit someone that is crouching, doing a crouching anti-air. Just having more active frames is always nice.
Yeah, for sure.
For jumping heavy kick, which is air-to-air normal, they increase the blowback time on mid-air hit, and it should be easier for Ed to land and basically pick up a combo. Because one of the things that Ed has is that he has DPs, right? But his DPs are kind of slow, and they're not particularly long range unless you use the heavier versions. So having that extra time, it's quite valuable for that to effectively work.
Right.
And in general, it will give him better Oki situation if he does a jump back heavy kick, like you were doing, where you'd be able to at least exploit the frames on on landing, right? Like you'd get Oki,
right?
Because they spend more time in the air. So that's nice to have in general. I think it's a good change, especially because jumping heavy kick is such a situational normal, right? Like it
is. It is.
Another thing that they did, which was interesting, is the light cycle blitz for some reason didn't have pushback on block in the corner. And that's unsafe in this game. It's -5, right?
Yeah.
So now it does. So at least you can sort of space it in the corner. Which
weird.
Is nice.
Okay.
I don't know why it didn't do that. I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Huh. Okay.
Then his cycle flicker, which is cortical forward light punch or punch in this game, the tendril, cycle tendril. On punish counter, it has 1 extra frame of advantage basically for a follow-up attack.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is just in general to make it more reliable from range, because you have to be really quick to be able to do a follow-up.
Yeah, it's just the quality of life for sure to make it easier. A lot of times you're like, oh, I hit, and then you're quickly trying to react to it, and you're always like a little bit off.
Yeah, you have to be super fast. Now it's just an extra frame. Yeah. Okay, these are all the buffs, and I would say that for the most part, they're just quality of life stuff, right? Nothing groundbreaking. Now comes the nerfs, and obviously, it's to the one thing that made Ed relevant, I would say, which is his level 2.
Yeah.
So, obviously, his level 2 is the big elephant in the room, and what they did is, unlike other level 2s that exist in the game, where now you're unable to build meter while the level 2s are out.
Right.
Like Guile or what have you. With Ed, they still allow him to build meter. However, they capped it at 80%. So you basically always build 20% less meter than you would if the super wasn't out.
Right.
So as long as the super is on screen, you build 20% less meter.
Basically, that's what dude, Ed got away with a slap on the wrist here. This is not a surprising change at all. We knew eventually they're gonna go after his level 2 because there was some huge discoveries that just made Ed shoot up the tier list and why he's like triple S in Japan in general, with the D-Scene combo. So yeah, Capcom's trying to tone it down a little bit, but they're also aware that the character is very popular and they don't want. And Ed's a sick character, dude. They don't want to just like destroy the character because this is like keeping him together right now. So they're just slowly tweaking it. He still gets all the reward, all the damage. It works on modern controls as well. So He still gets everything. It's just that, you know, it makes it so he doesn't guarantee to have 2 level 2s in one round. But even after this change, he still does get 2 level 2s.
Yeah,
in one
I mean,
round.
20% less is
It's a slap on the wrist.
notable, but it's not that much.
Yeah, it's not
Legitimately. The thing that I would expect them to do, and it's probably the reason why they looked at it this way, is that maybe in the future they will completely rework his meter gain from his normals and stuff to compensate for the level 2 being that strong, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe this is setting up for that future. And I mean, hopefully they buff other things about Ed. I know that all of Ed players, he's the most popular character for modern controls because his anti-airs are so slow, right? So like,
and Tachikawa's
the modern anti-airs, it's so nice.
Tachikawa's the most successful modern player ever. So
even in ranked, according to the stats, modern Ed is really, really popular. So,
I see. Okay.
I think that's probably something they're gonna look at. But yeah, Ed for a character, like I said, especially in Japan, is considered so strong. Really, is basically in the same spot.
Right.
If anything, it's slightly better. I know this level 2 is, you know, like a big part of him. But the other buffs are pretty nice, I think.
Yeah, they are.
And then we have Akuma, who got no change. He got a bug fix.
Yeah, Akuma was another interesting. Akuma actually got 2 emergency nerfs at the very beginning of the season, which I was surprised by. So I thought they'd go after him a little bit more, considering Akuma is considered one of the strongest characters right now. So yeah, he got away with 2. Maybe Capcom's got some big plans for him later.
Yeah, I'm honestly incredibly surprised as well. I was not expecting that. I figured that Akuma was gonna get hit somehow.
Yeah.
But most notably, and this is the last important change, is M.Bison.
Ooh, Bison. Yeah, Bison's spicy.
This is a change that, looking at it on text, definitely seemed more intense than it actually was. For one, he got a lot of bug fixes. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bug fixes.
Wow. Okay.
Of various kinds that I don't even know.
Was one of the bug fixes that he was able to do knee press without a charge?
As it turns out, no.
No, so that was intended. Okay.
Well, there's a couple of things about him. So the first one, and I legitimately thought I was insane when I was playing against Bison, because I was like, I know that all drive reversals are supposed to be the same.
Yeah.
But why does his go so far? And then it turns out that it did go too far, and they nerfed it, so now it's the same as everyone else.
Okay, his drive reversal?
Yeah, his drive reversal went further than normal.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like
So
when you say went further than normal, do you mean like it physically did, or it deceivingly did? Like, did it match the animation?
Well, it says that they reduced the hitbox, so I would assume that it did go further, according to what they're explaining.
Oh, weird. Okay.
This is a change. I don't think it's that important, but there are some situations, some block strings where Bison could drive reversal and other characters couldn't. Which I noticed when I was playing against this character. But I mean, that's a change.
Interesting.
Then the other notable change, aside from the bugs, is his knee press. Again, the elephant in the room, like you mentioned, not a charge move in this game.
Yeah.
Got a notable update where basically before, the way it used to work is when you did knee press and the knee press got blocked, there was a certain amount of pushback, but Bison got a very large hurt box.
Yeah.
To compensate for the fact that, you know, it got blocked and to make it easier to punish. So if Bison didn't space it correctly, even though the move had quite a lot of pushback, you would still be able to punish with a 5-frame move or faster. However, now what they did is they reduced the pushback so that it's much less than before, but this extended hurt box is gone. So now you have to, you know, like your attack actually has to reach Bison. So what this means in layman's terms is that as far as punishing Bison's double knee press on block, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not even a nerf. It's more of like making it easier for both the Bison and opponent to know if it's punishable or not, because there's no deceiving extended hurt box.
Yes, there's two things, I guess. One is it would be easier to land a punish counter combo because you're not as far from the opponent.
Yeah.
Right? Like, say some characters have crouching light punch, crouching medium punch, for example. Before, it would be very hard to land that because, of course, you're hitting that crouching light punch on an extended hurt box that is very, very far.
Yeah.
Right? So now it's a little bit easier. But the most notable thing, and that's what they were mentioning in their own notes, is that basically, as far as punishing Bison is the same. But if you didn't have a punish and you wanted to contest Bison with a long range poke, for example, you know, like a crouching medium kick or standing medium kick or whatever, it was kind of hard before because the pushback was so high that Bison very often space trapped you just by doing this on block.
Yeah.
But now, because there's less pushback, it means that it's easier for people to contest Bison when they don't have a punish, right? Like you can poke at Bison if you decide, okay, I'm too far for my jab to reach. I'm gonna do a standing medium kick, and now it's gonna hit, reach Bison.
Okay.
I mean, before it would just whiff because Bison's like on the other side of the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of complaints about Bison's knee press. I did like an anti-Bison guide, just talking about that hidden hurt box, but now that's kind of gone now. So at least, like, yeah, once again, if it is space, you'll at least kind of know, like, hey, you don't have to worry about getting it wrong, because sometimes you're like second guessing yourself, like, is it spaced or not? But now you should know if that with that hurt box gone, visually bigger understanding. But yeah, Bison still
pretty much unchanged. Yeah,
it's still terrorizing people. He'll be using knee press just as much. But yeah, same. I had the same reaction here. I read the notes. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty big nerf. But once you see it, it really doesn't feel like it at all. It's still very, very strong.
A nice consistency, not only inconsistency, but not every character has the same opportunity to punish this move, right? Because not everyone has a far-reaching 5-frame attack that is easy to use. You know, like you're playing Akuma, you block this attack, you punish it every time, pretty much, because then like it goes so far.
Right.
But other characters, they don't have strong 5-framers. I mean, they might struggle with it. So having the opportunity to poke at Bison without having the risk of getting space trapped, I think it's good for those characters that struggle with punishing this move on block. So it's a nerf. I mean, legitimately, it is a nerf overall, but it's minor. I wouldn't say that it affects him in a way where, like he was top 3 is the bottom 1 now. Of course not.
Right.
And again, as we mentioned, that move, it's a motion move in this game.
Yeah.
So it's very strong, and he has reward on counter hit and punish counter. I mean, admittedly, if it had been a charge move, it probably would have been 0 on block. So
it would have been even stronger.
But yeah, I mean, very surprised that Bison didn't get many changes. Probably because he's relatively new. I mean, before Terry was the last DLC character, right? So
yeah. All right, Mir. So you mentioned all the what's it called? Relevant notes here. So
yeah.
let's finish this off by talking about the biggest winners and losers. Just like,
Yeah, there's one more thing to mention is that I didn't talk about Ken, I didn't talk about Cammy, and I didn't talk about Lily. That's because they got nothing. So.
yeah. So the bottom line here, the biggest winners is definitely Rashid and Akuma, right?
In the sense that they didn't get to lose more yet.
Yeah. No, but seriously though, I looking at the notes, I think JP is an easy one. In terms of where he was before this and where he is now, I think giving him back that crouching heavy punch is huge for JP players. It gives them hope, and I'm like I said, I'm seeing it being much more reliable in tournaments, and it'll definitely make the character more tempting to play, especially for. Now JP's been played by a lot of specialists, like, big JP specialists like Juicy Joe, or we might have like Aqua, or our Kakeru go back, because Kakeru's been practicing a lot with him too.
Yeah, and
JP is still like a strong character, I think. So giving him that crouching heavy punch is huge. He's definitely one of the big winners.
Even with the nerfs, I felt like he wasn't, a bad character. He was just a little bit too unreliable for the standards of competitive play.
Yeah,
people really want things to work the way they're intended to every time, right?
Yeah, dude.
Safety and reliability are king in competitive play. So now that JP got some of that back, I totally expect him to show up in tournaments more often.
Any other winners you would say from this patch?
Yes, I would say Dhalsim honestly got some nice changes.
Dhalsim, man.
I think I think
Dhalsim,
Dhalsim is not gonna, like win a million tournaments now because of these changes. But to have those things, it's a step in the correct direction. That's the proper thing.
they made
I
him
wanted to
cooler
say.
too. Like the changes aren't just like they're also like the level 1 thing. I think with the chip, I think is cool. That was a great
I agree.
idea. And Dhalsim,
I think it's thematic as well because he used to have something like that in Street Fighter 5 with the V trigger. So it's nice to see it come back in a way.
yeah, Dhalsim's so low in this game that he can only go up. So having like a long list of changes for him is great. So that's 2 like buffs in a row, and now Capcom's paying more attention to him. And like I said, there are still some fantastic Dhalsim players out there that are still dedicated to him. So he'll be kind of like similar like JP, even though I feel like JP is stronger than Dhalsim. But yeah, Dhalsim is slowly starting to come back, slowly.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I mean, not really. I think the other changes are honestly fairly minor. Just because there's not been that many changes, you could ideally put someone in here as top 3 biggest winner, but I don't feel like it's right. Luke got some things.
But no one's gonna pick up Luke. DJ got some things, but I don't think
DJ
anyone's coming back. Honda's still a bum. What else?
Chun-Li doesn't die if she gets an anti correctly now, which is not.
Ed got buffs, but it's still like his level 2 is still his main thing, so he'll still basically stay the same. Yeah. Okay, so the 2 big winners is, you would say, JP and Dhalsim then.
I would say so, yeah. Probably
Okay.
JP first, Dhalsim second, just because of their relative tier placement, if anything, not just even the
Right.
buffs themselves.
JP's back, baby. All
Oh,
right,
he is.
it's time to talk about the big L's. Who is the biggest loser, Mir?
All right, I'll break the mold here and say I don't think it's either Zangief or Guile, because honestly, their changes are notable, but I think the biggest losers are the characters that were bad and didn't get any changes. So like Lily is still Lily.
Okay, dude, Honda's the biggest loser, bro. They buffed his level 2 and it still sucks, dude. Honda's the biggest loser, man. Come on, man. Can't catch
honestly,
a break.
like, the characters that are considered weak, and recently some have really come to the forefront as being considered legitimately bottom 3, like Marisa.
Yeah,
got nothing,
Marisa. Yeah,
right?
dude. Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of interesting. I would expect them to maybe change more with the season patch, especially if they do some kind of rework of universal mechanics.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got nothing, I mean, it really sticks out to me because, like I said, the Zangief and Guile changes, they're notable, and I think overall, as far as nerfs on these patch notes, they're probably, I mean, they're basically the only ones, really, the only big ones.
Yeah.
But they're not, they're not gonna make these characters go down several positions on a tier list.
No.
I think they're basically gonna stay. The same
Zangief's moving
place.
up right now. He's going up higher. Yeah, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's the characters that got no love.
Yeah, that's true.
Ken didn't get
That's
any
deep.
changes, for better or worse.
Yeah, it's deep, Mir. It's not even the characters that we read. That's crazy. That's the big takeaway. But I mean, maybe in a more positive outlook, maybe it's because the characters I do really need to take a look at. Capcom might need to make some bigger changes to them. That it requires a season buff rather than a mid-season buff.
I agree. I think you're right. I think it's something that has to do with going in tandem with universal mechanics and how those are going to change.
Yeah.
Because just like in many other games before this, characters that are low tier usually tend to have bad interactions with the universal mechanics, while the top tiers are good at exploiting them, right?
Yeah.
So if these changes happen to make these characters better, obviously that's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, I mean, some characters might get reworked. I have a lot of gripes with Lily because I think right now, as it stands, she's in desperate need of a rework. And she got nothing, so like that only makes me hope that something.
We're gonna have to talk about it all over again, Mir, like last year, dude, with our wish list. Seriously. But yeah, so I don't think we're gonna be getting any bigger patches anytime soon because Capcom Cup, we're more than halfway through the season. But Mir, there's still a lot more I want to discuss with you in terms of how these characters are being balanced so far with Street Fighter 6. and Capcom's direction. So maybe we'll follow up with another video and talk about that a little bit more in depth on you know, why these characters are being omitted and why the top tiers are still remaining very, very strong.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I can talk about Lily for hours.
So yeah, chat, let us know what you guys think of this small Terry balance patch, and which characters you guys like to see to have further adjustments, or which ones you guys like, and we'll go from there. We'll follow up with another video. But thanks so much for watching, and thanks for joining me, Mir. Appreciate
it. Absolutely.
All right, guys, we're taking off. Have a good night, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.